name's Comrade Ofehe. I am from Isoko, Delta State, Nigeria. I'm a human and environmental rights activist. I basically talk about issues that affect the people of the oil-rich Niger Delta region, specifically on human rights and human and environmental rights issues. And also the executive director of Ofehe Foundation. So, Hope for Niger Delta campaign is an organization that we use um, draw up international and global attention to the plights of the impoverished people of the Niger Delta region.
Oh,
And I've been
awesome.
in the Netherlands since 1995.
Whoa. That's a long time now. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Can we hear more about your childhood, your background? Because you're doing so much right now. What's your background like?
Well, I grew up in a polygamous home, and I I would not consider my upbringing to be the privileged one. However, my dad was. I grew up in a town called Ugeli in Delta State, and
Mm,
my dad was quite famous in Ugeli because we had a street named after my dad. And but the upbringing was really very tough. We were not privileged to have a lot of things that majority of our friends and our mates they had, because those hardship and those moments where things did not appear to be going the way I want to are actually the moments that are now guiding me, particularly in times when I have crises, when I have situations that would have depressed a lot of people. So I draw my strength and inspiration from my background and my upbringing, and that has been helping me tremendously. And in addition to, of course, my Christian faith. Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. So, with your upbringing being that difficult, like you have said, and challenging, how did you go into being who you are today?
Well,
How did
as a student at the University of Benin, I was very much involved in student union activities. And of course, I entered the university in the wake of the June 12th presidential election that was annulled by the then military government of General Muhammadu Buhari into Sani Abacha. And so there was a wave of peaceful pro-democracy demonstrations taking place across the country. And I was very much involved in that demonstration to actualize the vision of the June 12th and to enthrone democracy in Nigeria, where we felt military rule was too archaic and was not the right system of governance for the
yeah,
people. We needed to be democratized. And when we had an election that was declared the freest and fairest election in the history of Nigeria, even till today, won by the very popular Chief MQ Abiola, who was also my mentor at that time. So there was personal and general reason for me to actively take part in that demonstration. And in the course of that demonstration, it also spiraled down into the killing of the Ogoni Nine, led by Ken Saro-Wiwa,
mm,
over environmental issues, particularly with the case of the Ogoni people. So those two incidents actually inspired me a lot. And in 1995, I left Nigeria due to some of these activities. And I came to the Netherlands where I asked for political asylum. So, and then when I got to the Netherlands, by virtue of not knowing that Amsterdam was going to be my destination, I realized that it was until I got here that I realized that the headquarters of Shell, who is a principal and a leading multinational oil company doing business in the Niger Delta, was actually domiciled in The Hague, which is in the Netherlands. And I came 11 days after Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 Ogoni activists were executed. And so when I got to the Netherlands, because the news was making the round then that Shell was involved directly or indirectly in the killing of this Ogoni Nine. So for me, it became a pivotal point, and it became like coming to a country where I never really prepared for what I was going to get. So at the end, it became a divine appointment and divine purpose for me to be here. And so a lot of people who knew that I had experience on issues relating to the Niger Delta region, a lot of Dutch people were asking me questions. They wanted to know what actually happened, what was the role of Shell in the killing of these people, because it got a lot of global attention at that time. And so they wanted answers to a lot of questions they were raising. And of course, I was there to answer those questions in meetings, in gatherings. So it was then I saw the need for the people to be properly informed, because I also discovered that even the journalists who were writing about our stories back home were not properly informed as to what the situation on ground was. And so that gave birth to the formation of Hope for Niger Delta campaign in 2006. And so I started using Hope for Niger Delta campaign as a springboard to actually bringing out news that I feel that the international community was not actually getting. And how was I doing that? I started organizing event-based conferences, bringing stakeholders both locally, nationally, and internationally, creating a platform for them to engage, and then release a communique and a white paper report that can also help shape policy making, either by multinational oil companies or by regional and international organizations such as the European Union, the United Nations. And then also I started seeing the need for me to make documentaries, because if we're talking about environmental issues, you need to show how much of damage has been caused and how those damages have affected the life of the people. And then you bring policymakers, stakeholders to come together and see how solution can be, how we can team up together to offer solution to dealing with the problem. And so that was how Hope for Niger Delta campaign was born. And then a few years after, in 2012, after making several trips to the Niger Delta remote areas to film some of these activities and then bring them for international discourse, I saw the need for the people to also get help.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, with all these plans you've actually made and the things you're looking forward to doing, so far you've been in this for a very long time, like you have said now. What has been your greatest achievements in the political world, being in the political party in Delta States? What's been your greatest achievement so far?
Well, my greatest achievement is the fact that with all the challenges that I have gone through in the course of, working very hard for mankind and for humanitarian purpose, I'm still alive to tell the story. And so for me, still being healthy, being alive means that the struggle continues. So that's the biggest achievement that I've had. And also another achievement is the fact that I didn't say that my mother was assassinated in 2007 in Benin City. So, and it took me almost 10 years to do her funeral. So eventually my mother was buried in Benin in 2017. And a lot of people, a lot of my supporters, people that I didn't even know, made contributions financially. They all came from different parts of Nigeria. I met some people for the first time who have been following me on Facebook at my mom's funeral, and a lot of high-profile people also came. So Benin was actually shut down on the day my mother was buried. And when I looked at the kind of people, the nature of people that turned out for my mom's funeral 10 years after she had died, it gave me some sense of satisfaction that even though I've been persecuted for what I stand for, there are still a lot of people out there who pray for me, who wish me well in what I do, who have come to appreciate the role I have played in my own simple way. Because I also, if I was looking at taking care of myself, my family alone, I think where God has put me and what God has given to me is sufficient enough for us to live a very comfortable life.
Yeah, awesome. That's good. I didn't want to cut you there when you were talking because you said your mother was assassinated.
Mhm.
Is this related to you being the Niger Delta activist, or
Well,
how?
until now, we couldn't find out who actually was responsible, and that was not also good for me personally because it put my life at risk as well. And so that was also the reason why it was difficult for me to announce my going to Nigeria, to let people know where I will be and all of that. So, yeah, of course. I mean, when you're an activist, you talk about critical issues that affect certain high oligarch class of people in a country. You step on toes. Even if you don't know, you step on toes. So those who may have been responsible in doing that may have done that in order to scare me from coming to Nigeria, and then also to send a message that I should be silent. But that became a wake-up call for me. And after losing my mom, it was clear because before she died, she had always been very proud of the activities that I was carrying out. So she's one of my greatest motivation today. And anytime my spirit, I'm going down, and it seems as if the human aspect of me is coming around and saying, okay, why will I wake up in the morning with a good heart to want to help people, and then the next thing I find myself in handcuffs, being locked and being accused for wrong purpose. So for the first time, I had to sit my kids down to let them understand that prison is not only meant for criminals. There are also prisoners of conscience who are innocently being locked out there. So I consider myself lucky because my house was raided by the Dutch authorities in 2011 by 35 Dutch police officers. The state was accusing me on issues, all kind of crimes, even as far as to terrorism. But at the end, we went into a protracted legal battle, and I must be very thankful to a lot of Dutch people, a lot of European people, a lot of Nigerians who stood up and defended me even when they had not heard from my own part. Those who truly and genuinely knew me know that I'm not a criminal, and I've always been moving around, not washing my back, because I know my conscience is very clear. So, death of my mom has actually inspired me a lot to do more for society.
Things.
That I would have, that I cannot say today that I am still weeping. She's gone. Wherever she is, I will continue to let my activities on earth make people to remember her.
Oh, good. May her soul rest in peace. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Now let's go back into your political party. You're with the APC, isn't it? If I'm right.
Yes. My aspiration was under the National Ruling Party, the All Progressive Congress, which is the APC.
All right, that's good. Yeah. Where do you see your political party, that is APC, in the political space in 2023?
Well, it is still very early to predict. I don't know if you're talking about at the national level or at the state level, because we have, I come from Delta State, and Delta State is predominantly a PDP state, and Delta State has been led by the PDP party since 1999. So for the first time, APC has actually stood up as the largest opposition party at the state level. And of course, right now that at the national level, APC is in government. So I don't know which one are you talking about, the prospect of APC in the 2023 presidential elections, or are you talking about in the state government elections?
In the state government election, actually, is what I'm talking about. I just want to know if you personally will be contesting in the forthcoming election, that is come 2023. Is that something you're planning?
Well, we just came out of an election now in 2019,
Yeah.
And now we're in 2020, so we still have about 3 years to go. A lot of things can still happen within that 3 years. I had a very successful consultation and campaign. I have no regrets stepping down for the eventual APC candidate, Chief Great Ogboru. During the course of my campaign, I was able to understand Nigeria better. I was able to understand the plight of the people even much more better. I was able to identify the potential that we have as a people, and I was able to do more of research to understand the capacity, the natural resources that God has blessed us with. And I was able to make extensive global consultation in a way to identify not just the problem, but to also talk to critical stakeholders on how we can solve the problem that we have in the country. So having said that, I was extremely very confident that I carried what it takes to become the executive governor of the state. And my vision was outlined openly for everybody to see, and I spoke it in all of the gatherings that I found myself in, whether in Nigeria or outside of Nigeria. Now, and I've thrown it out for anyone. The idea of leadership should not be pinned to political parties alone. The idea of leadership should be praying for who the right person is to become the next governor. In 2023, if I am still having that support base and that encouragement, and people say, okay, Sonny, we still want you to come, because it is not going to be my decision alone. You cannot run an election where you don't have people who are supporting. So if the general population says, okay, they want me as their candidate, of course, I'm offering myself to serve them. But if in the course of 2023, there is a candidate that I believe in, that the people also believe in, I am also ready to sacrifice my ambition to support that candidate to become the governor of the state. So it is not about me being the governor, it is about who becomes the governor of Delta State in 2023, delivering on the set objectives that should form the core basis of the democratic dividend for the people to enjoy from.
Awesome. That's really, really wonderful to hear. One more thing. Let's take you away from politics now. Let's get to know Mr. Comrade Sonny Ofehe. Let's get to know him now. Aside politics, have you got any hobby aside fighting for our survival?
I'm somebody who likes to seek knowledge, and the best way you seek knowledge is to read. And the best way to seek knowledge is to watch movies. But my focus when it comes to movie is purely on true life stories. It's purely on movies that talk about what has happened. Because I believe that for you to know your where you're going, you need to also know where you're coming from. And then for you to be able to develop yourself to become a good leader, you need to also follow the life of people who have led people. You need to understand the society in which you want to lead. And then in understanding them, you can only acquire those knowledge and those experience, not only by what happens to you in your life, but also by what has happened to people and how people have been able to handle global issues. So I watch television, and then also my greatest novel is the Bible. I read the Bible a lot, and I believe that all of the stories and ethics that the book preaches are vital to my continuous existence as a human being. And of course, that is where I have also drawn my major inspiration, knowing fully well that if God can pick prophets like Jacob, Joseph, Elijah, Jeremiah, Isaiah, if God can pick them, even Jesus Christ, if God can pick them and use them for a specific purpose, and yet they had to struggle through life as human beings, then my suffering is just a tip in the iceberg, because I have not been able to be as holy as those people were. And yet, why will I think that God will call me and give me a bed full of roses to lie on? So, but then I take solace in the fact that God says, I'll give you double for your trouble. So he understands that I will always give trouble.
Very, very good. Very, very good. Yes. That brings us towards the end of this interview. But before we go, can you just give a brief advice to the young and aspiring generation who intend to also go into politics? What have you got to say to them?
Well, it's not only people who are going into politics. As a young man, if you want to develop yourself to become a good husband, a good father, and a good leader, and a good motivational personality for people to look at and see what they can learn from you, the first thing you have to know is that life will always throw challenges at you. Life will always throw challenges at you, and life will put you in a position where you would need to make critical decisions. But one thing I always tell people, let your decision not be based on greed. Let your decisions not be based on what you want for yourself. Let your decision be based on what you can contribute to society in a way that part of your contribution will be what will also carry you along. And that is why Jesus Christ said, for the least of the things you've done to your brother, you have done unto me. Seek ye the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and every other thing shall be added unto you. So once you go like that, with that mindset, that kind of thinking, favor will always chase you. So it is not how much you have in your account that makes you a man. That is why I tell them in Nigeria all the time, what is the essence of you acquiring riches, building multi-billion houses, buying properties all over? Because you're afraid. You're afraid that if you fall one day, before you sell one of your house in Ikoyi, you will bounce back. So even when you have not fallen, you're already anticipating that with all this position that you have, you will still fall, and definitely you will fall. In Exodus 34 verse 7, the Bible said, for I am a jealous God, I will visit my iniquities upon your children's children until your third and fourth generation. What God meant is that the biggest sin you can commit as a politician, it's when you embezzle money of people who are vulnerable, people who cannot fight you back. Because then heaven will take their battle on their behalf, and you can never come out of it. And that is where you see people whose account has hit 2 billion at a certain point where they were at the highest level of their political office. And then you see them fall to the level where they cannot even afford a ticket to move from Abuja to Lagos. It is no mismanagement. They are suffering the consequences of what they have done to the ordinary people. As a politician, and most people tend to undermine the oath they swear when they get to office. That oath is always physically and spiritually binding. You take that oath, anything you do under the service through that oath period will come back to haunt you. So what I advise people is, don't let money be what you're chasing. Build your character. Let people trust in you, and see where you can change society. See where you can talk people out of certain kind of depressive situation. See how you can always think positive, not about yourself, but about the environment with which you live in. And then when you do that, you will not need to struggle, because God will connect you with people who also think like you. So sometimes when I go to Nigeria, I have to stay 1 week. I set up my appointment, and then some of the people around me are so amazed on, you were able to still meet this man in Nigeria where you can come for an appointment, and then you get there, they say, God traveled yesterday and all that. No, in my case, I meet them at the time that I have scheduled. Maybe it will change, instead of Tuesday, it becomes Wednesday, but I meet them. Why? Because I go with a positive mind that I'm not going to ask money for myself. I'm not going to ask contract for myself. I'm going because I want me and the person to sit down and see how we can solve. It's not as if I don't have problems, but how we can solve people's problems. So there's no way God will turn such an appointment into disappointment. So I'm already very positive from the onset that for the purpose for which I am embarking on this trip, it has nothing to do with greed. It has nothing to do with my personal enrichment. It is for the common purpose of humanity. I must not return back with an empty content. So
Awesome.
once you're positive, you believe positively, positive things will always chase you, and you will lack.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. No, we spoke about your charity organization and all that. I just want to ask this: in what way have you supported during the pandemic process now? In what way have you tried supporting, either with your charity organization or any other means? I've supported Niger Delta or any other.
First of all, I have raised a lot of attention to the plights of the poor people in this period of pandemic. I've also reached out to senior top political figures in Nigeria, telling them what their responsible, what their civic duty should be at this time to them. And I've also I've also dealt with the issue of the long-term plans that we have. We should go beyond just giving people food right now. We are forgetting that the pandemic will be behind us, but the economic devastation in its wake will be something that will not only affect people in Nigeria, but will affect us directly or indirectly also in the diaspora. Oil price has dropped to $11 per barrel. And of course, you know, it is the revenue from the crude oil that funds 85% of our GDP. And so that means the country is already living in deficit, in addition to the huge debt that we already owe. Now, if we're hungry right now, the hunger is still very small. The hunger that is going to come when the world will be looking at us as people who have overcome the pandemic will be much more than the hunger that we're experiencing now. So these are some of the things that we should be looking at. And then I'm also putting out some information out there on what kind of step the government should take in dealing with all of this, looking at the European approach to solving the problem. And beside that, of course, I mean, I'm in talk right now with my community, with my local government area, to see what I can do through my foundation to deal with the issue of hunger right now. And of course, in a couple of days from now, I think you will see something from what my foundation would have done.
Oh, all right. That's good. That's well said. And thank you so much. It's really nice to hear all these positive words from you. I do hope our governments in general, those that are occupying the high space, would be able to pick two things from what you've said to improve the economy. Once again, thank you so much for joining us in this interview. Really appreciate the time. It's been really a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much, and bless you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.